Hello everybody, this will be just a quick video on what it is to be an inadequate man. I've previously made some videos talking about inadequacy and how it's difficult to live being an inadequate man, not being able to attract women, being rejected by the opposite gender. What I found particularly frustrating is how we have to sculpt a life that is different from the lives of people who have more luck with women and people in general. Someone who's inadequate, we have to. For me, I'm living with my parents currently, and I noticed the stressors of being a man who doesn't fit into the social world and who women don't really find attractive. I mean, going down the mall to buy bread, you always notice in the line or in the shop, there's always an attractive woman beside you or next to you. And for a man like me, it's a frustrating thing to encounter because like immediately, if you're like me and you've made like kind of peace with the fact that you can't really attract women, then and a woman shows up, it's like your biological, side is, I want this woman, I think she's attractive, but you have to logically kind of, to tell yourself that, you don't stand a chance, you're not good enough, etc. And then eventually the logic takes over and you're just out and you. And that's because men don't have hope anymore. Like, you had a life once that things were going smooth, the tides were going well with you. There were peaks and there were troughs, but the troughs were workable troughs. You could scale them again to be peaks. It's almost like you could even out the troughs. The bad things in life was workable, you could work, but then when you actually become an adult, there's so much things that goes wrong. For example, let's take a lonely, inadequate individual, someone who has problems interacting. Now, this is an unforgivable sin, unfortunately, because when you can't interact, when you're unattractive, you're a man, like you want to be with women too. And you realize one thing is the first thing that you know you can't get is women. You think that's all it is, but it's more than that. It's actually much more of a social and an interpersonal aspect than what other people tell you. I mean, if you can't attract women and you go out to a park, you notice a man with a woman. You notice if you're walking by, even if you're walking by, if you're walking by the park or you're walking by a beach, you notice one thing very particularly. I mean, if you're like me and you've walked by beaches always alone, you notice one thing very particularly. You notice there's always couples all around you. There's always people. There's always a man, and you can see in the far end there's a man, and there's a tall structure, and then there's a shorter structure just next to that man, or you think it's a man and it's a shorter structure. So that's got to be a couple then. You notice that as a single man, you're always noticing these things. You always notice that you are alone, and you notice all the couples around you. You notice all the people around you who have made it into the social norm, who have succeeded into the social norm. And you realize that, by George, you haven't made it. You haven't succeeded. And this puts even more depression on you. This puts even more stress on you when you go home that night and realize you really are a fucking idiot. You really are someone who's socially inhibited and unwanted sexually too. Um, I'm actually past the point of putting back punches, holding back punches because I realize I have inabilities. This is an inability. I have social inabilities. I have looks inabilities. And I'm an intelligent man, but my intelligence, being intelligent alone isn't going to make you happy. I'm trying to spend my time reading books. I read mainly philosophy. I find the allure of picking up a book and reading it and finding the wisdom in it. But then after a while, I want something more in my life. I want to meet someone too. And I know it's not never going to happen. I know that there's no chance in hell I can meet someone because of inadequacies. And it gets to that point where it's just not believable anymore.